Mm, mm, mm. All right, welcome back, you guys. So, in this second recording here, the first one, if you haven't watched it yet, it's going over sort of the general outline, pace, and what you can expect from this Environments for Animation course. Within this second video, I'm going to go in, I'm going to start talking about Project One as well as the discussion post and give you guys an overview of that and what these assignments actually look like. So, if you go into the D2L, and click on content, you'll see Project One is now open and live. Remember, your first discussion post for this Project One is going to be due Friday before midnight. I talked a lot in the previous video. If you haven't clicked on that one, about how please do not wait until Friday at midnight to do your discussion post and post them. Best practices is going to be trying to get that discussion post in by Wednesday evening, Thursday morning, get it off your plate, and that'll give yourself plenty of time to be able to respond to other students, and other students will be able to respond critically to you and give you good feedback so that we can all become the best artists that we possibly can. So, Project One is up on the screen here. Welcome to the jungle. Within each one of these projects throughout this semester, I'm trying to give you guys as much information as I can. So I'm going to be doing live demos along with you guys and then posting the recordings that you can go back and watch at your own pace. Within these project descriptions, there is a ton of information. There's also videos within there. And I promise you, I'm not giving you videos just for busy work. These are videos that I've watched and I've benefited from, and I don't want to waste your time. If you do take the time to watch them, I think you should. It will help you in your creative journey and your design thinking skills for the rest of your life. So here we go. Project One, welcome to the jungle. When you see each one of these projects, what it's going to start with up at the top is the date the project is due, which is usually going to be 3 weeks after the project is always going to be 3 weeks after the project opens. And the way that I like to start these build outs is I talk about how to begin thinking about the assignment. We're going to go through and we're going to scroll down. You're going to see just how much information is covered within this. I'm not going to be reading all of these things. I expect you guys to go online and actually read through this and take in the material. But I'm going to be giving you an overview of how this project is laid out. The next thing that you're going to see in bold within each one of these projects is a brief write-up on when do you know you are done with the project? When do you actually know to step away and say, all right, hands down, we're not cooking anymore. We've done the work that we need to do on this assignment. Um, and then after that, I talk about the key moments within the piece that you should be thinking through and being sure to highlight, and to the important things that we really want to get and learn from this assignment. After that, I go through and talk about the techniques that you're going to use. This is going to be a lot of the same for most of the projects, and that's because our base canvas size within Photoshop or a digital application is going to be 1920 by 1080. That is your screen resolution and your screen size. It's the same as a phone. It's the same as a TV or a movie theater. 16 by 8 is what it's called. And the other thing that I want to make you guys aware of is that we're going to be working at 150 DPI within this course. That is a good Goldilocks zone for the scale of the canvases that we're working with. 1920 by 1080 pixels is your starting point. You can make your canvases much larger than this. You can make them taller. You can make them really long and wide if that's what you need to do for your creative solution and your vision. I always believe in give people a sandbox and let them build their own castle within that, so that your creativity and your own artistic voice can shine. Photoshop is typically going to start you with a canvas at 72 DPI. This is great for websites, not too good for high resolution digital imagery that we're going to be creating. If you're in the print world or you're going to a printer, they're going to ask you to send things over to them at 300 DPI. That is well in its overkill for what it is that we need to be able to do. Uh, I know that some of you guys are probably working on student laptops, or maybe the laptops are a little bit older. And if we go up to 300 DPI with this scale of the canvases that we're working at, we have like 100 layers within these background environments. When you try and use the smudge tool, you're going to see it go and you're going to spend half your time, you're going to waste so much time waiting for things to catch up to what it is that your brain and your hands are able to do. So 150 DPI will work fine. Please keep in mind that later on down the line, when you do go to upload these to your websites, you need to deprecate the images. That means shrink them down to 72 DPI, or you can do 90 DPI and or 92. That is the maximum resolution that browsers can currently support to be able to show them on your website. This will also keep your website running nice and fast so that people aren't having to wait a day and a half to be able to see the beautiful work that you worked on, and they can click through it effectively. All right. So that's all I got to say about the techniques. After that, I go through and I list out what the heck it is you're going to be graded on in each one of these projects. These are going to change along the way, and take a look at that. In this one, the things that you're being graded on within the first project are composition and flow. That means that you are using all of the objects within the scene to direct the viewer's eye effectively towards what it is you want them to look at, what your stage is going to be. We'll talk more about that later on, but a lot of times when people are starting to do the environments, when you're doing the intro projects for animation, if you haven't done a lot of background stuff before, you end up creating this like vaudevillian type of stage to where your horizon line is just totally flat. You got a tree here, maybe a park bench, and you have these really just the most boring backgrounds in the entire world. Whereas if you actually look at television shows, we find that a lot of these backgrounds have got multi-layers to them. There's different heights and spaces, and a lot of the objects in the scene have got stuff in the foreground, we've got stuff in the background, and all of it is being used to direct the user's attention to what it is we want them to focus on. So that is your composition flow. So I'm also going to be grading you guys on the design of the ruins. We're looking for well thought out ruins. And this is something that you can really remedy at the early stages of your design development within those first sketches and thumbnails to plan out the ruins thoroughly. This will keep you from ending up in just a box type shape for your ruins. And you're actually thinking through all the details and piping and, what is the carving, the iconography of the civilization that has been long forgotten in these tropical jungles. The next up is the foliage design. I haven't talked about this yet, but that is one of the big secret challenges for this project. It is a lush jungle that you're going to be designing. That does not mean that I want you to spend the next 3 weeks of your life stippling in every single leaf within a jungle scene on every single bush. We don't want that. We want to create the abstraction and the illusion of detail within these shots. You can also get away from local color. Local color is the idea that the sky is blue, the tree bark is brown, the ground is orange or tan or whatever, and the leaves are green. You can use alternative color systems if you want to. We're going to talk a lot about your reference images and how those are going to be so influential on the works that you're going to be creating. And then finally, color usage and shading. You should be beginning to develop some type of light source and consistent shading method for this first assignment. That's going to be really important for you guys. Within the project overviews as well, I go ahead and include all the information within the discussion post so that you have that in multiple touch points for you to be able to read and look through. Okay. So, let's get into talking about some of these past projects and things to think about for project one. So these are 3 in-class examples that I've done previously for the project one. For any of the projects within the semester, you are welcome to either use lines or to step away from the lined backgrounds. I understand that line art is something that a lot of you guys are very comfortable with at this stage in your creative practice. But I'm going to give you guys the techniques moving from your initial well-developed sketches into color blocking and then moving forward to where the handrails that the line art really is starting to become for you, you can let those handrails go and start to focus on art that does not utilize line work within it. All right, so a lot of this is talking about reference images and getting good bushes and how to think about the design of the foliage and the process for that. I'm also going to be demoing all that stuff within the live demos and sessions for you guys. So watch out for me to be drawing a lot of bushes in the upcoming sessions. Different shapes for the foliage. This is about talking through the reference images. We'll see more of that within the discussion post. One thing that am going to stress a lot in and want to talk about within these first videos and this first introduction with you guys is the rule of 70-30. So the 70-30 rule is the idea that within the composition, 30% of it maintains the most heat, the highest amount of detail, the most saturation, and that is really where we are, and all our objects are pulling the viewer's attention to that space. This image right here on the screen is a great example of that. And all the elements, the brushwork, the very structure of the design is all geared towards pushing your attention towards this center area in a very, very successful way. The lighting is also really beautiful and creates a nice movement throughout the entire piece. You'll notice down here in the bottom left-hand side of this piece, a lot of that detail starts to dissipate. And that is kind of your goal for this project, is figuring out where you want the high amount of detail to be and where you want the detail to fade away for where the user isn't exactly looking. Yeah, and we're talking about just from some of the shape language and sort of visual breakdown for how the movement lines, excuse me, are working within there. All right. So the design of the ruins. Man, I hope that you guys can come up with something really creative and really neat here and that you're able to dig into it. Please do not make these ruins just square boxes. This is also going to get you thinking about adding, foliage and vines and moss to the rocks and to the things as nature starts to take them back over. Yeah, I think we're in a good spot for covering just sort of the overview for the project. Please go in and read the project in more detail, but let's look at the discussion post next. I've got a couple things to highlight and let you guys know to be successful within these discussion posts. All right, let's get down to the bottom of it, and I want to show you a quick example real fast. So we'll see where you're going to post your results, and we are going to post down at the bottom. When you are posting your results, please do not click on the Add Attachments button right here. We do not want to click on that. Instead, we want to click on this little photo icon within the discussion post. Do this one. Go ahead and hit Upload. Give it a name. The name doesn't matter, but we want our pictures to be directly inside of the discussion post. You'll notice as this course goes forward that you're going to be asked to upload a lot of reference images, a couple different examples within the sketching and development phase, and nobody in this class, and myself included, wants to sit there and open up more browser tabs. I already have enough. And so please post this directly in here and we can all see it all together instead of having to jump between different browser tabs, and it'll make all of our lives quite a bit more easy. So please post your pictures as a JPEG or a PNG directly into the discussion post area. All right. So up here at the top of this first discussion post that's going to be due this Friday before midnight, I think I've said that enough. What I'm really asking you guys to do is think through your sketches. So we've seen some examples of the projects that, my example is a good benchmark. It's, shoot for the stars, aim for the moon. But I talked previously about how your sketches early on, a lot of times are going to be figure based, and so they might end up being really loose. And I do not want to see you guys turning in anything that looks like this. As we move into the post-COVID world and off-site work becomes more common, it is so important for you to be able to rapidly prototype and to be able to talk in the design language at a rough level to be able to keep everyone on the same page quickly. If you turned in something like this to your art director over on the left-hand side, they're going to have no idea. They've got 1,000 other things going on in their life, and this isn't going to help them motivate and bring people together for what the project needs to be. The one on the right-hand side is, yes, a more developed sketch, but there's still, for environments, a lot more information that we need to be plotting and planning. So right here is a fully developed rough sketch for this environment. This is not my final drawing. It is still a sketch phase, but you can see that I've gone through and we can clearly tell where the trees are. The structure is well developed and figured out. And I'm really thinking about how all my shape language within this jungle environment is going to come together to be able to tell the story and move the viewer's eyes where I want them to look. I'll show you the actual example project, or the animation for this. Sorry, I got a lot of stuff on here. Here we go. All right. So then you can see an actual character. It's not the best drawing, but the actual character interacting with the environment and how this background comes to life. So within my jungle environment, I've got a good lighting source. I've got a plane for the character to actually be able to interact on within scale within the shot. And it's just a quick little gag. So she's going to come here. She's going to pull what she thinks is a vine. Turns out it's not a vine. It's actually a snake. Oh boy, yikes. Snake falls on her, scares her, and then bada bing, bada boom. Quick little gag. So yeah, that's how that environment came together. But I wanted to be able to show you guys the final piece in action and then switch back over to the sketch for this. Okay, there we go. So there's my sketch, and you can see how much that sketch really becomes the foundational groundwork. You are solving for proportions, you're solving for scale at this stage, you're making sure that your composition is well developed and well thought through. Here's another example. So this one actually has line work that I ended up doing on it. And you can see that I'm thinking through each one of the blocks. I'm thinking about where the blocks are going to be. Within the ruins, I'm going down to the level of figuring out where my lines within the bricks are going to be. And I'm really doing a test practice run within my head to make sure that all this stuff is working properly and is going to look good. Here's the third one from the examples. We'll see a more finalized example of this one later on, but I want to show you um, when we get into talking about your reference images. That's the next big thing here. But yeah, so please make sure that your sketches are well developed and you're really thinking through everything within these sketches when we look at them. Paired with your reference images, it should give us a pretty good roadmap of where it is that you're headed. Okay, let's talk about reference images for this class. Reference images are the most important thing for any artist. I have no idea what happens at the college level where suddenly in high school it was fine to do still life or draw pictures out of a magazine. And you did learn how to draw Goku or some anime character without looking at a picture of that actual anime character. We all know who Mickey Mouse is, but if I asked you guys right now to draw Mickey Mouse completely sight unseen out of your head, you probably would not be able to draw the character accurately. Same thing goes for Daffy Duck or Donald Duck. Um, so please do not try and come up with this stuff out of your own mind. Rely heavily on these reference and illustration images that artists have painted. This is the first time a lot of you guys probably have likely done a jungle environment, any type of environment work that I'm asking, or genre work that I'm asking you guys to do over this semester. So please do not try and create it out of your own minds. That said, photographs can be a good starting point. This picture within this photograph here that you can see on your screen is the definition of a lush jungle shot. We've got so much foliage, but if you use this as your only example and go into painting, you will end up spending the next 3 weeks of your life with a hurt hand after you've tried to draw 10,000 little leaves. I want you guys looking at other artists and illustrator and environment art pieces to help inform you and to learn from looking at their works, their color choices, their rendering style, their shape language. and really reverse engineer how these artists are creating this stuff. Without doing that, you are never going to get to a professional level without studying what professionals have actually done and created before and what has made it to screen. By working purely from photographs, you're not going to get there because you're not learning the techniques that these artists have already developed after doing hundreds of background environments for jungles and whatever kind of scape it is that we're creating. Next up, when it comes to searching for your references, artstation.com has got a ton of 3D environments on there. 3D environments a lot of times can have way too much texture and way too much detail, especially when they go into the realm of photorealism. You want to try and find something that is a little bit more stylized, that looks like it would appear within a 2D video game or within an animated 2D animated TV show. This example here is a great example of what Google will give you at the very top of the iceberg. If you simply type in jungle environment onto Google, it's going to give you photographs. If you type in jungle illustration on Google, it's going to give you what I would call a baby changing room art. And this is not a good piece of art for jungle art and design. Yeah, the characters don't really match. It does have leaves, it's rendered okay. We can see the stamp brush is being heavily used with the foliage up at the top. Same with the grass down at the bottom. It doesn't really have a lot of life. It doesn't have a lot of interest to it. It's pretty banal and pretty boring. The leaves do not really match the overall composition flow. They don't match in their rendering style. The composition flow is not strong here at all. They're not. I don't think that this artist really considered where the characters were going to go within this scene. Those red flowers that are hanging down are not really useful, and they're not adding to the composition in any type of way. The characters' styles don't even really match all that well either. So this is not good art. I expect you guys to be able to go a lot further within your designs than anything like this. Here's a good example of background art. So this one has got a good stage. We've got some objects within the foreground that are helping to frame the scene. We've got good depth within the shot. We've got atmospheric perspective. We're going to learn a lot about that and jungle fog that kind of exist. We've got a good variety of foliage design without overdoing it on the details. And the trees are well rendered and well considered when it comes to the bark. Also, look at this ground with all the different colors, the way the grass is handled, the sparse use of texture, but it still gives the impression that there is grass there. It's just a much, much stronger drawing than what we're seeing within this space. I really do not want to see you guys laxing and living here. I'm much more interested in trying to get you guys to this type of level. And the only way that you're going to do that is by using illustrated background references. Please go in there, copy the colors, copy the shadows, copy the shape language, copy the tree forms that they're using so that your hand and your mind starts to build out a creative library for these things. This last one here for the example is really, really strong as well. This is the strongest of the examples. It's got a good light source that's happening here. We've got the foliage design that feels lush and thick, but this is background that is becoming a character itself, right? With the little tiny dude standing in front of the big cave that's almost the shape of curtains being pulled back and opened, it feels like an ominous next step for this young character as he steps into the unknown and steps into the darkness. And this is really, really smart, the way that this artist has designed this stuff. The shape language is absolutely beautiful here with the stones as well. We've got objects within the foreground. We can think about that 70-30 rule for where it is that they're deciding to really highlight the details within this piece. And again, if we look at the foliage ground on the design, it's got a lot of beautiful colors. The grass is not just green. In this case, it is yellow, it is orange, it's purple. We've got some browns and blues going on within that grass as well. And that's the way that I want you guys to start looking at your reference images to really break down the elements of design that they're using here and rip it right out of there and put it into your own project. Okay, so that's discussion post 1. Let me go ahead and show you where you're heading next. So most of the time, the first discussion post, you guys are going to be doing a variety of well-developed sketches and posting those, and you're also going to be sharing out some reference images. And this is to be able to give everybody a good idea of where it is that you're heading next and to be able to collect feedback on your initial ideas. The discussion posts do close after midnight, so I would recommend revisiting there, opening up a Word document, copying the feedback that you get and pasting it into a Word document. This is something that I do quite often within my creative career, especially when I have projects that can last a year or more or 6 months. A lot of times with that much time involved in a creative development, the ideas that were set out at the beginning change and morph and get re-tied into knots and switched around, and having a paper trail of what the art direction and feedback is can be really good. You as either a senior or a junior or an entry to be able to keep the objectives and on track and at your disposal. Especially if you're working on 4 or 5 different projects at one time, or something gets pulled up from 3 or 4 months ago again, then you have the written track record of how we got to this place, and it helps with communication an awful lot within a studio environment. Within each one of these discussion posts, I also list out at the bottom of them what it is you're going to be grading on. So the vast majority of the discussion posts within the semester are worth 5 points. The total project is going to be worth 20 points. So you have 2 discussion posts, that's 10 points. The project is worth 20 points. So 25%, half your, it sort of balances out. The discussion posts end up being worth a lot. They matriculate over the semester and become, a big part of your grade. So don't miss out on those benchmarks. They're easy points, and you're a fun major. This is environments for animation. You're doing creative work. This is a passion thing. So love what you do. And now for the second discussion post, most of the time, I'm going to be asking you guys to show your progress. What showing progress looks like is most of the time you've got your sketch picked out, you've got your line work completed, you're going through, you've added your flat color, and you're starting your shadow and your highlight pass. Your work should be about 50% done, and showing some good forward progress. So right here, I'm showing the flat color. The flat color is going to be your midtone. When you see my working process, I always start with a midtone. From there, I move down into my shadow pass. Once you have your shadow pass and your midtone, you've got a really good idea of what the form is going to look like for the object. And once you add your highlight, that's breathing the life into the painting that you are creating. Okay, so for this one, I really love to be able to show this one off because it shows you just how close I am using these reference images. This reference image here on the right-hand side is from ArtStation, and it is a 3D render. However, have got it open up within my Photoshop file. It's over in what I'm going to call the gutter, over either on the right or the left-hand side. And I am using the eyedropper, and I'm pulling my colors directly from that reference image for my drawing. I'm trying to search out my midtone for each one of these objects, and then I'm going through and painting my shadows within them for my shadow pass. Within these projects, I like to start as far away as you can possibly see within the sky, and figuring out my sky, what time of day it's going to be, where the sun is going to be at. If it's a cloudy day, is it overcast, is it sunset? And that's going to inform my lighting for the rest of the piece. As I move forward from the far background, I move towards the middle ground, and then I like to save my objects in the rendering in the foreground for the very end. With atmospheric perspective, once I explain more on that, you'll understand that blacks and the darkest and most saturated colors should only be used within the foreground. We're going to be moving more towards neutral grays and levels of white as we move further back into the distance for the vast majority of these shots, giving us that atmospheric perspective. It's getting technical. I'll break it down for you guys later on down the line. So again, that is what these are going to look like. It's going to tell you what it is that you're being graded on down at the bottom, and there's a lot of good notes and breakdown for these discussion posts. If you ever have any questions, please email me, and I'll try to get back to you as quickly as I can. Just please be sure that you do not email me from the D2L. Copy write down my email address in a notepad somewhere else, and just email me from Outlook, Google, Yahoo, AOL, whatever it is, carrier pigeon, just not D2L, so that I can respond directly to you. So that's going to cover us for the overview on this project for the discussion post and the, and the project overview. So for right now, I'm going to pause the video again. And when you come back, I'm going to go through, I'm going to talk about and show you guys some previous student works that have been done. Some of them are more successful than others, but that's okay. We're all learning. We're all trying to figure this stuff out together, and it'll give you some good kind of compass points for what does work, what can be improved, and hopefully we'll start to see, what is the level and the standard that is great, what is medium, and what maybe needs a little bit of improvement. Also, in the next video, I'm going to go through and I'm going to open up Photoshop, and I'm going to start showing you guys good project best practices for how to get these projects started within Adobe Photoshop. Shouldn't take me that long, but thank you for tuning in for the second one. And yeah, I'll see you back in just a moment.